Hey, what's up? So, if you remember a few weeks ago, I talked about African comic books and I reviewed Beast from Venus, which is from Avandu Studio, a Kenyan comic book company. And I promised you guys that I was going to review that book. It's called WANA WA MAGERE. That's a poster for that particular book. So today we have the book. We've always had the book, but today is the appropriate day to talk about it. This is WANA WA MAGERE Chapter 1, Umati. It's from Avandu Studio. And so, these are the descendants of Luanda Magere. They are like the main character. And this is the villain. It's called the Prophet. So, who is Luanda Magere? Who is Luanda Magere? Why is Luanda Magere a big deal? Why, first of all, am I talking about this book? Why would I recommend this book if you've never read any African comic books? So, first of all, let's answer the question. And as usual, if you watched my book on Beast from Venus, the Avandu Studio people are kind enough to actually give you an intro, an understanding of everything about Luanda Magere. Because, again, as much as the story is different, it's based on, a story that is very popular in Kenya. So what they do, they give you like an intro so that you don't get lost within the story and then present day, whatever happens. So, who's Luanda Magere? So, Luanda Magere back in the 1700s was a Luo warrior. Now, during that, who are the Luo people? The Luo people are a community of people who live around the Lake Victoria. They come from the western side of Kenya. And this will come into play somewhere in the story. It will make sense somewhere else in the story. So they come from the western side of Kenya. So the story of Luanda Magere happens during the 1700s. And during that particular period, the Luo people, who I've told you are from the west side of Kenya, were having a lot of conflict with the Nandi people, who are also around those western sides. So there was a conflict between the two communities, and there used to be a lot of battles between the two. And so the battles usually used to happen at night, and Luos always used to win. Now this Luanda Magere character, he could not be killed. The Nandi people were like, what's up with this guy? We shoot arrows at him and they cannot penetrate his skin. They cannot puncture him. They tried spears and there's nothing you could do to him. Now remember, they're fighting at night. So he seemed indestructible. And they eventually went like, yo, you know what? We cannot defeat this guy. We cannot defeat this community. So what do? We give Luanda Magere one of the most beautiful Nandi women as a sign of peace. So they do it. They give Luanda Magere the Nandi woman, and as usual, when something like that happens, If you know the story of Samson, you know. So eventually, the Nandi woman asks Luanda Magere, yo, dude, what's your secret, man? How comes you and your warriors cannot die? But more especially you. No, not you and your warriors, actually you. Why can't you die? What's the big deal with you? What makes you so special? And then Luanda Magere, as you know, just like Samson, he goes like, I have a secret. And then obviously the Nandi woman goes like, yo, what's your secret? You can trust me. Tell me, please. And then eventually, like Samson, Luanda Magere goes like, yeah, in order to kill me, you cannot hurt me as a human being. But my shadow is vulnerable. But me, as a person, my form, you cannot do anything to it. So now she knew the secret was his shadow. That's why the Luo wouldn't attack or wouldn't go to war until it was dark or at night, because at night you know that nothing can happen to your shadow. You don't have any shadows. So now she knows that, and obviously she goes to the Nandi people and she goes like, yo, dude, we know what's up with Luanda Magere. The secret is his shadow. So what do the Nandi do? They go to war during the day. And when they go to war during the day, what happens? Luanda Magere is exposed, so they go for his shadow. So they kill him. They kill the shadow and he dies. And what happens when he dies? He turns into this huge rock. So that's the core of, it's not the core of this story, but that's the basis of this story. That's the base of these two characters, Jawar and Neema. So they are descendants of Luanda Magere. This is the present day. So they have kids, they have children, and so these are the descendants. And they also have a bit of that power. They have a bit of that ability with them. They all have their own unique abilities. I'm not going to spoil it for you. I'm not going to tell you until you grab your own copy. So one thing is obvious. Why would I recommend this book? First of all, it's the quality. It's a very well done product. Number two, the artwork. The artwork, as usual, Avandu, when it comes to illustrations, I think they're one of the best. They do some really good, if you are to think African and you think of the African form, you think of the African complexion, they do a very great job of just creating, like super good, not overly saturated, but just, a very good look and feel to the illustrations. So what does this story do that is unique? First of all, we need to ask ourselves, what's the story about WANA WA MAGERE? The best way to put this story is, see, you are part of the team that wrote this.
Yeah, I wrote it. Actually,
since you tell us about this book.
WANA WA MAGERE, chapter 1, the story about the descendants of WANA WA MAGERE, two of them, Neema and Jawar. So Neema and Jawar, they have powers. They come into realization that they have powers because they are from the lineage of Luanda Magere. So they use their powers to fight paranormal activities. So basically what we did in the story is that we went to one of the exhibitions that talked about the artifacts that were stolen from Africa by the colonialists back in the day. So we decided to mix that concept with the twins in this story. So they use those artifacts that were stolen from back in the day, and then they use them to basically fight paranormal activities. So that's the gist of the story. I don't want to give too many spoilers, but that's basically it.
There's a lot that I will go into, but I don't want to spoil it. Let me just say that there's a lot of tradition that goes into everything. And one thing that I think Avandu did very well is now to make the story of Luanda Magere a Kenyan story. So it's less about the Western. As I told you, the story of Luanda Magere is a very Western side of Kenya story. It's a very Luo Nandi. When you think of Luanda Magere, you think of west side of Kenya. But now this story goes into central part of Kenya. Now, I don't want to say that Kenyans, we are very tribal, but because of politics and the nature of our politics in our country, we tend to be very divided. And the two primary tribes in Kenya which have a very heated political rivalry, it's usually the Kikuyu people, the central people, and the Luo people, the western people, because of their political kingspin. They usually have that thing. From the founding fathers who were like Kenyattas and the Odingas, there has always been a kind of a conflict between the two communities. So this book brings all that together, because now they mix the cultures up. They pick the Kikuyus. This story it's based on the central part of Kenya, actually near Mount Kenya. Mount Kenya plays a part in all this. There are characters like, I wish I could show you, but I will insert that picture here. There's that character who is in the story, and it's more central, even with the look and the tradition. It feels it's more of the central part of Kenya. So what this story does is that it brings everything together. It like brings the whole country together, rather than saying that Luanda Magere is only for the Western people. It brings in, yes, there's that aspect of these characters being the descendant of a person from Western, but the story, the majority of the story happens, the core of the story happens in the central part of Kenya, around Mount Kenya. So that was pretty unique about the story. Now, if you've never been to Kenya and you go like, can I understand what's actually happening within this story? They actually did a very good job in that they still maintained the entertainment factor of a story. There are a lot of good action set pieces. There's a lot of action here and there within the end. The villain looks like super cool. You can actually see him. You can actually see the head. He looks like a villain. He behaves like a villain. There is that familiar story structure that we all know from either other comic books or movies. So you can actually go into it without having to necessarily understand the Kenyan way of life, but you can easily get that these are the bad guys, these are the good guys, that's the villain, because they do a good job with the character design and the writing. the dialogue in itself is easily understandable. So this being the chapter 1, and again, a lot of artifacts, because this story has a lot of artifacts within it. The people in Avandu actually do a good job explaining to you why some of the artifacts within the story are important and how some of the artifacts plays into the story. So as I was saying, this is a very, this is only like chapter 1 of, this is like chapter 1 of the story, which I hope that they will do more of. And it's one that I would encourage you to pick up. If you are in the States or if you are in any other country, it's available on Amazon. I think right now it's around $15, which is far more cheap than you'd expect a book like this to have. What do I mean by that? You have a lot of Western comic books which focus on Batman, Superman, all these superhero characters that we are familiar with. But the thing about those superhero comic books is that they're not original, they're not new. They're just the same characters that you've seen over and over again. And you feel like the characters are recycled, it's only the story that is different. But the characters are familiar. I mean, if you see Batman and you see an old man next to him in the house, you know, obviously know that that's Alfred. You know, if you see Superman, he's wearing glasses, that's probably Clark, he's playing Clark. You know, that all these familiar tropes about the Western comic books that you all know, that sometimes you may feel jaded with, you know, the Western comic books. So when you go into something like this, you'll meet totally different characters. There's a sense of originality in terms of just the characters that they were able to develop. There's a sense of, it's something outside of what you're used to. It's something outside of the Supermans, the Batmans, the sci-fi. It doesn't really, you know, it kind of fully goes into culture a lot. There's something you can go into it and get introduced to a different culture. Am I overselling it? Kinda, but I think it's absolutely worth it. It's one of the kind of books that you encourage you to actually own. So basically that's it. That's WANA WA MAGERE. If you can get like a physical copy, this is pretty awesome. As you can see, there is the headlines are like glossy and then everything is matte. So that makes for a very interesting look and feel. So basically this is WANA WA MAGERE from Avandu Studio. I'll leave the details in the description section for their website and also for the Amazon page. Grab yourself a copy and look out for what they come up with, because they come up with some very interesting stuff. So basically that's it. That's Luanda Magere, WANA WA MAGERE. Beautifully illustrated, very interesting story, very interesting structure. Now, the only thing that I had a problem with within the book is that they don't do enough with the villain. Yeah, it looks cool, and he has an action set piece here and there. I hope that this book is just here to set him up, because I think there's a lot of potential with him. I think there's a lot of potential with this story. I think there's a lot of potential in, you know, having a very dynamic, you know, in Africa we don't have like a villain. You know, in the normal comic book world we have the Joker. We have, you can mention a couple of villains who are actually really good within the, you know, American comic book culture. But this can make like one of those characters that we would like to follow as just a villain. I would wish with time they would actually flesh him out more, so that we like get to know his background, we get to know why he was inspired to be what he is and how he become, and then maybe give him a bit of more badassness in terms of action set pieces. Yes, they're there, but I think there's potential to do more with him as a character. What do you intend to do with the villain in this book? Because this is chapter 1, so we are going to get chapter 2 and maybe more.
That's chapter 1, so yes. We're planning to do 3 chapters for now. Chapter 1 based on one of the artifacts from the Kikuyu tribe. Chapter 2 based on an artifact from the Chikenda tribe. And then chapter 3 will be based on an artifact from the Befallen tribe.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so we're trying to sensitize guys that there's some artifacts that were taken from us by the colonialists, and just telling them that part of our culture, part of our identity has been stolen. So sensitizing guys about these artifacts through comic books, through our stories. Okay. So that's what we're doing. Yeah.
Anyway, basically that's it. That's my review of WANA WA MAGERE, which is like an African comic book / graphic novel from Nairobi, Kenya. from Nairobi, Kenya. If you've never experienced African culture, this is a good gateway drug into it. Also, basically that's it. If I was to give this out of 5, I would give this a 4.5 out of 5 for those who know my structure. So basically, thanks for watching this. If you did not see my review of the other book, which is A Beast from Venus, another comic book from Africa, take your time to go watch the video and grab the book. It's only $15 on Amazon. So basically that's it. Thanks for watching. Remember to always watch what you enjoy and enjoy what you watch. See you on the next one. Subscribe. You can like the video, subscribe, share, click the notification button, and I'll see you on the next one. Thanks for watching. Please introduce yourself. You got to introduce yourself.
My name is I'm the chief editor at avandu Studios.
Yes.
Yeah, and this is what we do. We do stories based on African culture.
Were you a part of the team were you the one who wrote this?
This one was done by Kiprop, the guy who did the concept. Salim, of course, did the artwork.
Yes.
And I, of course, helped with the editing on this particular project.
Nice, fantastic.
Yeah, so
thank you, man. Yes.
That's Avandu Studios. Check us out on Insta at avandu.af, on Twitter at avandu. Everything will be there. Thanks.